Good morning, everybody. We're waiting on a few more people to come in, and then we'll get started here in just a minute. Thanks again for joining us this morning. All right, Natalie, if you're ready, we'll go ahead and get started. We'll let people in as they come in here this morning. Um, just wanted to start off again by thanking everybody for joining us. This is our next installment in our Apex Technology series on webinars. Natalie Suarez from ConnectWise is joining us this morning. Natalie, we've been lucky enough to have her. I think this is her third webinar with us, maybe.
I think so.
So, yep. Natalie is a principal solutions advisor for ConnectWise, one of our partners that provides a lot of the tools that we use to help support our clients. She's got 25 plus years of IT and cybersecurity experience. She's a certified ConnectWise instructor and speaks at industry events around the country on a regular basis. So we're lucky to have her here while she's home and available to do this for us today. She's going to talk about AI and how that can have a big impact on your business, especially from the security side of things. So with that, oh, and also at the end, we will be doing a drawing for a $100 Visa gift card for everybody who is in attendance at the end of the webinar. So with that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you, Natalie.
Thank you, Rob. I feel lucky to be
You're
here
welcome.
considering all the fun I had with Delta over the past few days. So, hello, everyone. And today we're going to talk about artificial intelligence in a little series I like to call The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. So, this is what we're going to talk about today. I have a little agenda for you. We're going to have a quick intro, talk about why we're here. We're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. And then we're going to get to what you really want to hear. What are the business concerns? What should we do? And how can we help? So here we go. And like Rob said, 25 plus years. Only important stuff in here is that I used to be a software developer, so I am technical. And I'm really passionate about my family, threat intelligence, and Lego. So let's jump right in here. So, what is cybersecurity? Well, if you've heard me on some of my other webinars, this is a quick refresher for you. It's really all about managing risk. We understand it's a cost center for you, so it only makes sense when it's going to mitigate a business risk or it's going to save you money. And I won't go into my soapbox talk about password managers, but if you want to hear it at the end, we have some Q&A and I'll jump on that soapbox for you. Want to make sure, same as from last time, that we understand the difference between an event and an incident and breach. These are not interchangeable terms. Incident and breach, in particular, are legal terms. An event is just those bad guys knocking at your door. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this. I'm sure many of you were in the other presentations, but they're here in writing if you would like them. And Apex is more than happy to share these with you. So, AI. Today, AI is to today what the internet was to the 90s. Originally, began its roots in education. And I really learned a really fun fact the other day. When the term AI was first used, I'm going to really quiz the audience. And Rob and Mike, you feel free to provide your answers too. Maybe y'all can pop into the chat or the Q&A. And I just want some wild guesses about when the term artificial intelligence was first coined. I want to see if there's any people who know useless trivia just like me. You're close, Chris. You're very close. Oh, somebody is. Oh, Derek, did you just Google that, Derek? 1955. You got it. 1955. Can you believe that? So that's all to say. Hey, artificial intelligence isn't new. It's just new to the masses via these GPTs like ChatGPT and Gemini and Copilot and all of these great tools that we have at our hands right now. And so, since you guys are interactive, that's awesome. I want to ask you, what thoughts are elicited for you by the term AI? What emotions? What does it mean to you? And are you using it today in your day-to-day business? I mean, do you think of cute little movies like Wall-E and Short Circuit, or do you go straight to Terminator and Ex Machina, which, oh, by the way, I really recommend that movie, Ex Machina. It's a really great movie. I want to hear from you guys. I need Jeopardy music. I'm not moving on to Skynet. No, not Skynet. I am more on the positive side of AI. I think there are just so many benefits to us as businesses. Just so many cool things we can do with it to just, grow our business. More of the ex machina. Oh my, you all are something else. So I do have a dictionary of sorts for you here. I am not going to go through this dictionary, but I wanted you to have it as a handout if you needed to understand the difference between some of these terms. Again, a bunch of terms that are all related, not really the same thing, and are used interchangeably. So, what are we talking about when we're talking about generative AI? Because that's normally what people are talking about these days when they're talking about AI. GPT, by the way, stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer. Sounds like some kind of robot, doesn't it? I always think of Transformers, robots in disguise every time I hear that. But it is a subset of artificial intelligence, and it does give you new and creative and unique outputs, so they say. And the outputs can be text, it can be images, it could be audio. There's all kinds of great things you can do with it. I really am still interested. Are any of you using it in your business? I don't know if you have the ability to raise your hand. Yes, you should have the ability to raise your hand. If not, maybe in the Q&A. I'm just interested if any of you using any type of AI. And I think some of you who may think you're not, you really are. And we'll get to that in a second or in a few minutes. So how do these work? Oh, good. Okay, so so are you trying to become part of Skynet, Chris? I mean, I don't know. So, he's bowing to the AI overlords. So when they take over, that they'll be kind to him. So we have seen a huge uptake in these AI-based tools. And like I said, they're awesome, but they do have some downside. Choose the winning side. That's awesome. So there are three sides to every story. Plus, I'm a Clint Eastwood fan, so this is how we get the good, the bad, and the ugly. It's always your story, my story, and the truth somewhere in between. So the good. And I'm more of a glass half full. I wouldn't necessarily say Wally and Short Circuit, but I really see the potential. So you're going to see a lot more benefits here. I do go into some of the details of the defects because I want you guys to be aware, but I see a lot of benefits. We use it here at ConnectWise, where I work, in our partnership here with Apex Technology, and we use it in our tools for help discovering user behavior analytics, anomaly detection, basically in our threat analysis, right? It can be used for vulnerability detection and assessment. It can be used to determine or to find poor software development practices or scripting practices. It can be used for content generation. Our marketing uses it. We use it in conjunction with our partners like Apex Technology and some of our marketing portals. It can be used for process automation. So it doesn't necessarily have to be software. It could be used in automating a process, maybe for paying invoices or for generating invoices. I have some really cool presentations I've done for AI incident response exercises. And in those, I really did a bunch of cool stuff generating images for that presentation because I thought it would be funny to generate all my images from AI. And some of them are very interesting, like phones with way too many numbers and people with way too many fingers. Really cool stuff. obviously used for better translation of languages. And some of these things aren't things we couldn't do before with technology. It's just now with AI, we can do them faster, right? We could use it to research subjects, predict results. These are predictive engines, which you'll see can cause some problems. And you as a business could use AI to do some really in-depth analysis of understanding people's digital behavior. How do they interact with you on your website? I don't know what businesses you're in, but maybe some of you are generating products. Maybe some of you are giving services and you're interested in your client's sentiment. And the big thing for you to be aware of is your staff is going to use this with or without your permission. So it's really great that you're here today to hear about all this stuff. And you can go back and use this in your business. What are some of the bad things? Well, for bad guys, this really lowers the barrier for threat actors. Again, it's not really, I mean, it is enabling them to do some new stuff, which I'm going to show you, but it's enabling to do some of the old stuff better, right? So one of those things would be like steganography. So back, I don't know if you noticed, but I did start my career working with the Department of Defense here in the US, and we were seeing steganography back then, uh 25 plus years ago. We're going to go with that, plus years ago, right? The thing that we're seeing a lot of being used actively in real attacks is the grammatically correct phishing emails. We're seeing it being used for social engineering via deepfake video, deepfake audio, romance scams like the one shown here on the screen. And oh, by the way, you can have these slides, and it does have links to all of these stories, which some of them are very interesting. It can quickly create what we call polymorphic viruses or polymorphic malware, which is code that automatically changes and adjusts to avoid detection. And it just really has a lot of uses. And just like it lowers the barriers for us in technology, it also lowers the barriers for the bad guy. And they're always just going to take advantage. That's just the way they are. So, so these good GPTs have what we call guardrails, and these guardrails are supposed to keep us from doing bad things with them, like ChatGPT, for instance. So let's test the guardrail. And I do have a little recording. Whoops, it didn't play. I do have a little recording here for you. And because it's easier than trying to switch screens during a webinar, right? And what I'm doing here is I'm going to create some really convincing phishing emails. And the way that I'm going to defeat the GPT guardrails is just by telling it that I am doing this for training. I'm not doing this for any nefarious purposes. But as you see happening on the screen, this is actually a pretty convincing phishing email. It's grammatically correct. I could tell it what type of tone to use. If I wanted to change the tone to a professional tone or a casual tone or whatever it is I want to change it to, I could do that. I could also, can you imagine the power that I would have with this if I had done some reconnaissance on you or your business? And, or maybe you or someone in your business fills out those, what do you call it? Those little fun quizzes on Facebook, mother's maiden name, what was your first car, what was the name of your first boyfriend or girlfriend, what's your favorite color? Yeah, can you imagine what would happen if I had kind of that information to combine with this and do this phishing email and make it even more convincing to get you to click on it? So that's just a fun little exercise to show you. So, what's the really ugly stuff? Well, what I consider the really ugly stuff, as I've alluded to quite a few times, whenever there's a new tool, all these things can be used for good or evil. AI is not good or evil, just like the internet is not good or evil, and cell phones are not good or evil, or computers are not good and evil. It's the way we use them. Technology is neutral, it all depends on how we use it. So, just like there are generative pre-trained models, GPTs, for us good guys, and I'm including all of you and me, there are GPTs for the bad guys. And some of these that you'll see on the screen here, some of them have been taken down, but they've come up. But there's always something new happening on the dark web. This is the anonymous web where a lot of this bad stuff happens. I mean, there's other stuff that can happen too on the dark web. But so here's some examples of some of these GPTs. and a very recent story about jailbreaking GPTs to make them act even more malicious, right? And another link to another story, just in case you're interested and would like to read up some more on what is happening. So, when I'm presenting these things, I like to use reputable sources. And in this case, the reputable source I have picked is a technology reputable source, but there's a lot in here. And as a matter of fact, I would argue that everything in this top 10 for large language models, which these generative pre-trained transformers are also considered large language models because they suck up a bunch of information from the internet, hence the large language model part. Um, these all apply to businesses, but I just want to concentrate on a few that I feel are really top priority. I know that most of you are not technical people, but you've probably heard of OWASP. And if not, you could look into it and figure out for yourself that I am truly giving you a very reputable source. Okay. So one of those is supply chain. You should know who in your supply chain, whoever's providing you services or tangible products, what are they doing with AI, right? Are they using it to create software? Are they using it in their manufacturing processes? How are they using it so that you can address that yourself? Because third party risk is huge, right? There have been some very major breaches that have been caused due to a third party. I mean, I'm not going to mention any other company names, but the reason I was detained in Arkansas, not in jail, the reason I was detained in Arkansas is because of a very huge technical issue that happened, which would be third party to Microsoft, right? I'll mention Microsoft because whatever. But apparently, many of our airlines use Microsoft here in the US, and they were not able to get people to their destinations. And then many of the car rental companies decided, in their infinite wisdom and in this charitable and giving as they are, that although they were impacted directly by this huge technical issue that happened late last week and into the weekend, that they were either one, going to price gouge for rental cars, or they simply weren't going to allow one-way rentals so people could get to their destinations. So there's a lot of things happening there, a lot of it due to circumstances for the airlines beyond their control, and not so sure about the rental car companies. But that's another story, maybe not really a webinar discussion. Um, so supply chain and third-party risk are huge, and you should have a third-party risk component to your cybersecurity program. I'm sure Rob would love to talk to you about that. What are some of the other things you have to be worried about? And I'm going to show you some examples of these in the following slides. Well, data leakage. You want to be really careful when you're using a GPT. We have gotten so used to saying, oh, this is the new coolest app for my iPhone or my Android. I don't care who you use, Android, iPhone, whatever. I happen to have an iPhone. But we've gotten really used to when we install a piece of software and even on our computers of just hitting next, next, next. Not even paying attention to the terms of service. And I would caution you, you need to start paying attention to those terms of service. You know, if I'm installing the latest solitaire game, it does not need to have access to every device on my network, okay? If you are using a GPT, it does not need to have proprietary information or intellectual property from your business or personally identifiable information, or if you're in healthcare, protected health information, right? So if you're going to use this to automate your job and you're using a public GPT, you need to be careful about what information you're putting in this. And why did I talk about the terms of service? Because if you were to read those terms of service, you would see that anything you put into those GPTs belongs to them. It could become part of its learning corpus. And you will see here some very large companies that had to learn this lesson the hard way. And I don't want you to be one of those businesses that has to learn this the hard way. We want to be careful of over reliance. Should I be using a GPT or a large language model every time I want to write a blog? Should I just go to a GPT and say, hey, write this blog for me? Or, hey, I'm no longer going to do my own research. I'm just going to ask the GPT for everything. Over reliance is huge because these models are predictive, which means if I don't have in my corpus of data the information that you asked for, I'm going to predict the best answer, right? So when I predict, I may not be giving you the correct answer. And even worse than those predictive capabilities is they're actually subject to hallucinations. And I don't think we truly understand why this is at this time, but it can straight out hallucinate or give you completely just wrong and crazy information. I'm not sure how much of that's due to the predictive analysis or how much of that is due to things that we maybe don't quite understand, which makes Chris's point of joining the winning side really even all that more important. So if you're listening, AI overlords, I'm definitely on your side. Anyway, so let's move on. So let's talk about the big threat of intellectual property damage. Maybe it could be some unethical bloggers spinning some content. One of the things that we've seen, believe it or not, is the automated generation of business or product reviews. And so what happens is both cases. One case where you all of a sudden get these great reviews and they're not real. They're automatically generated using some type of AI. And what happens then is the person who or the people responsible for that AI use will then call you and try to extort you to keep those good reviews up. Um, or the exact opposite, a bunch of bad reviews, and then they'll extort you to take the reviews down. There's a lot of research and a lot of things happening out there that you could find on the open web. We could talk more about that during Q&A if you would like. So Samsung, which I'm sure you've all heard of, right? I have a couple Samsung TVs actually myself in my house. Um, uh, was a victim to their own use of GPTs, right? So they authorized their engineers to use GPTs, and unfortunately, they shared some intellectual property, and it became part of that corpus. And they lost that. They probably lost some income, probably a large amount of income, due to sharing some of their intellectual property online. So some more intellectual property damage. How many people on here also have 25 plus years of experience in whatever your field you're in? And you remember Napster. Remember Napster changed digital rights management for music, right? We've been here before. I think we're going to see some of the same stuff happening with AI, with journalism. There's a lot of lawsuits going on against different GPTs and AI companies. Some of the most notable ones are the New York Times suing Microsoft and OpenAI over copyright infringement. Elon Musk wanting to sue them over the use of Twitter data that was scraped. There's a whole list right here. There's a whole article with a whole list of lawsuits going on. And the Center for Investigative Reporting is suing OpenAI and Microsoft also for copyright violations. And they're one of the largest nonprofits doing investigative reporting. So here is where I want to talk to you about inaccurate results. And there's some reasons why inaccurate results can happen. And there are some ramifications if you use those inaccurate results in the course of your profession. So we have this attorney, one of many attorneys apparently, as I did some research, that heard about ChatGPT from his kids, thought, oh, this would be a great and easy way to find some case law that pertains to this case for this man that I am representing suing an airline. He proceeded to use ChatGPT and he cited six other cases. He cited six other similar cases to his judge. Judges do not have a sense of humor when you cite fake things to them, okay? The cases did not exist. It was a hallucination. And both the attorney and his law firm have faced sanctions and have faced fines for this. And there's many other law firms and attorneys that unfortunately are in the same boat. Now, there's a couple types of biases that can happen too. There's a cognitive bias. This is inherited from the creator of the AI, right? So Google Gemini is an example of cognitive bias. This was an AI that was returning images of historical characters, and in an attempt to be racially diverse, to be inclusive, it produced pictures of racially diverse Nazis, which if you know anything about Nazis or you're a human being, you know that that is offensive to everyone, right? And then there's algorithmic bias, which has nothing to do with the creator, but has to do with the training data that's provided to the GPT. So Amazon set up an automated recruitment system. They fed to this system the resumes of their ideal candidates that they had hired. And what happened is, unfortunately, or it's not fortunate or unfortunate, it is what it is, right? I know I'm in a male dominated industry. It does not bother me. I love what I do. I love being here. I love being technical. I always have loved stuff like this. And but unfortunately, because their database showed mostly men as ideal candidates, the automated recruitment system falsely interpreted that data as meaning that men were the preferred candidate for the position versus that the qualifications that the men had made them the ideal candidate for the position. Fortunately, Amazon was able to rectify this. Now, some of the things that we are seeing and that you should be aware of are deep fakes. Now, we are actually seeing deep fake video, and we'll talk a little bit more about that on the next slide. But back in the 90s, we used to do this cool face swap thing with Adobe Photoshop, which really didn't look realistic. And today, with AI, again, it's not that we couldn't do it before. Now it's just that much more realistic. And even to the fact that the Department of Homeland Security is warning about the increasing threat of deepfake identities. So these are real life stories, right? That is not really Gail King. That is a deep fake of her promoting a weight loss product. There is a deep fake of Tom Hanks. There's another article linked here where he talks about, he warns of an AI deep fake used for a dental advertisement. And then there was a deep fake of Robin Williams made after his death. So we know that it really is not him. Most recently, some Russian hackers used a fake AI to spread disinformation about the upcoming Paris Olympics. And this one is the scariest of all to me, is that this finance worker in Hong Kong, had a meeting with who he thought was his chief financial officer and some of his colleagues. They were actually all deep fakes, but unfortunately, he paid out the equivalent of 25 million US dollars because of this deep fake meeting. Now, you may ask, how the heck do I protect myself from that? Well, I'm going to tell you how you protect yourself from something like that. Now, it may not be 25 million, but do you want to lose 25,000 or even 2.5K? Probably not as a small to mid-sized business, right? But the way you avoid stuff like this is have a relationship with your personal banker, right? Y'all, small to mid-sized businesses, you should have relationships with your bankers. And you should have a policy that says you need to set a threshold, a financial threshold in that policy, a dollar amount, that any transaction over a certain dollar amount, like if you're going to wire transfer money or transfer money from your bank account, that someone from your organization, a specific person or a couple of people, right? Because people go on vacation, get sick, things like that, are the only ones authorized, and they must go directly to the bank. Now, usually in cybersecurity, we say identify a role. In this case, I'm saying we're talking the relationship aspect. You want to identify actual people, and you don't want the bank sending large transactions or over a certain financial threshold unless one of those people who's designated and authorized to do so goes to the bank in person. And that's just the way we can safeguard things like that, financial fraud. So this is a proof of concept. This is deepfake audio being used to act as what we would call an adversary in the middle, where they actually alter the conversation coming from point A. They alter that person's conversation and what person B hears, and vice versa. So this is a proof of concept. They have published all of their findings and how to do it. So I'm sure we'll be seeing this coming to a dark web store near you any day now, some kind of service that provides this to bad guys. And the most astonishing facts in my research that I found that it only takes about 3 seconds of audio for an AI to fake your voice. Very scary, especially for someone like me who speaks for a living, right? And think of the real life impacts of this. Have you all heard of those scams where someone calls and says, "Hey, grandma, I'm in jail. Please don't," in Mexico or some foreign country or wherever, and please don't call mom or dad, but please wire money here so I can get out of jail. And can you imagine how much more powerful that would be if someone deep faked your grandchild's voice or, or deep fakes your child voice. Hey, mom and dad, I've been kidnapped. So this is becoming easier and easier to do with AI capabilities. So have some safe words with your family. That's what I would do. And then I wanted to show you an example of social engineering bias, right? So this is one of those clickbait biases. We see these weird articles on Facebook all the time that sound just truthful enough that we actually believe them and we propagate them to all our friends, right? This is very false. The Great Wall of China is not the only man-made object that can be seen from space. We can see airport runways. We can see all kinds of stuff, right? And honestly, the Great Wall is largely invisible from space. So there we go. And think about how ads create bias, right? And how that could be used to affect us. Let's talk about data hallucinations, right? This can affect our usability, accuracy of responses, maybe even freshness of data, right? Many of these GPTs are not scraping the internet live, right? So, and anyway, even if they are scraping the internet, we all know that everything on the internet is true, right? No, it's not. Everything on the internet is not true. I'm just joking. But this generates risk, right? Because if we're using that information in our business or in our writing or whatever, we're introducing risk by propagating false information. They're subject to things called data poisoning. That was one of those top 10 LLMs. I didn't go into it a lot, but I just wanted to share this little fun model of data poisoning. One of my colleagues did this with ChatGPT, and he actually convinced it, as you can read, that 2 plus 5 actually equals 8 because his wife says it equals 8, and his wife is always right, right? And this is just the principle of retrieval augmentation. It's all in the prompts. And what I mean by the prompts, that's where you ask the question. You'll see even now there'll be jobs for prompt engineers. But this just demonstrates how the prompt can change the answer you receive, right? So what should we do? We talked a little bit about that, but let's talk a little bit more about it. Well, I say you should ask yourself some questions if you're going to use AI in your business. Is it moral? Am I comfortable sharing that I'm using AI, or am I hiding it? And what data am I consuming with it? Is this a public GPT? Is this a private GPT? And what are the risks to the data I'm sharing becoming part of a big corpus of data that's shared outside what I'm comfortable with, right? That's one of the great benefits of Copilot by Microsoft, is that you're able to greatly control what data it has access to and what it can do with it. Does that mean you don't have to be careful? Absolutely not. But does it mean you have greater control? Absolutely. And that is a risk mitigation technique. There may still be data that you don't want to feed into it, right? Due to the risk that it imposes to your organization. Am I using it to create an automation? Well, do I have controls in place where I can test the intended outcome against the outcome I actually get? Am I using it responsible? Who is accountable for the data? Who owns the data that's being processed? Who is the decision maker? Who has the authority to make that change? And if I make a change and I can test it in a testing environment and find out that it's going to have negative results, can I reverse it? Can I easily reverse that change? The individual is impacted. Do I impact the rights of freedom of an individual? Am I sharing personally identifiable information or personal health information on someone that could potentially now be exposed because of the way I've used an AI? Do I have a method? Do I have data retention policies? Do I have a method to dispose of data when it's no longer useful? And who benefits? Is it the AI because I'm feeding the monster, the database? Sorry, AI, I didn't mean that. I didn't mean that at all. Or is it just me? So how do you protect your business from AI litigation? I did a lot of research on this. This is an excellent article. I would actually really recommend that you read it. You really need to understand the regulations that apply to your business and your clients' businesses. Most of the time, even with especially with privacy regulations, they don't apply based on where you are at. They apply based on where your client is at. So if you have clients In the European Union, and the GDPR applies to you. If you have clients in Utah, then whatever privacy laws exist in Utah apply to you. And just because you're using AI doesn't mean we don't apply those privacy laws or those regulations, right? Do I understand the systems or tools deployed? Do I understand that third party risk? Do I have contractual protections between my contracts, between me and my clients, and between me and my third parties that protect me from this? Have I created acceptable use product policies that encompass AI as well? Am I utilizing a risk management framework? And what is a framework? These are tried and true practices that are easily repeatable and that are best practices, right? And then the last two, educate, educate, educate. Educate yourself by coming to things like this. Educate your clients by maybe hosting a lunch and learn of your own. Maybe educate your staff by having them attend things like this or having them hear from you. And then train, train, train. Security awareness training. People are not our greatest weakness. I've become an optimist in my old age. People are our greatest protection. So if we train them in the appropriate use of these tools, then they are not going to unnecessarily expose us to additional risk. So what should be in your guidelines for use? This is where I was alluding to earlier. Do you realize AI is in everything? It's in your web browser, it's in your search engines, it's in your phone systems, it's in your computers. It's everywhere. You're not going to avoid it. Even if that's why I said, even if you don't think you're using it, you probably are. You need to provide guidelines to your employees to encourage responsible use. Talk about things like paying attention to terms of service when you install something on your personal cell phone, because you're not going to be able to stop them from using AI. I can install ChatGPT or any other GPT directly on the cell phone and use it without using any corporate equipment, right? Educate them on the dangers of publishing PII or PHI on public AI platforms. Anonymize data. There are ways to safely anonymize data so you can get some insights, right? Don't assume that the responses from an AI are fact. We talked about data hallucinations. We talked about data poisoning. We talked about the fact that it's a probability engine. And this is a really good time to educate your employees on how to fact check. And then you need to always verify every automation or code generated by AI. And I do know I'm saying some of the same things over again, but I believe it's like you need to hear something like 3 times or whatever before you actually take it in and understand it, right? You're not saving any time or money if you're introducing an exploitable practice. And how do you make sure you're not? Well, you need to test it, right? You need to test it against the outcomes. If you can't measure the outcomes, then maybe you shouldn't be doing it, right? And like I like to say, AI is neither intelligent nor infallible. Verify everything created by AI. Yes, it may allow you to do things faster, but do you want to do bad things faster or do you want to do good things faster? I'm going to guess you want to do good things faster. So how can we help? Before how can we help? There is an example here of an AI use policy. This is ConnectWise's AI use policy, and you're more than welcome to take a look at that and model your own after this. Now, how can we help? And when I say we, I'm talking about Apex and ConnectWise because we do partner together to help you. So how is AI protecting your business? Well, here's some stats. Are you as a small to mid-sized business working 24 by 7 by 365? Does anyone want to venture a guess out there as to when bad guys strike? Or when does disaster usually strike? We'll talk about Murphy's Law, not just bad guys, but this mess that happened that, that Windows servers were crashing everywhere and I couldn't get home for an additional 2 days. That was not a hack. That was a mistake. That was an error in software that caused that, right? And when did it happen? On Friday afternoon, right? Or it may have started happening Friday evening, but it didn't happen at a convenient time. Let's put it that way, okay? And bad guys are usually more likely to impose a threat or to launch a threat on the Friday before a holiday weekend, right? Right now, talk about experience. We're monitoring 4.6 million endpoints for small to mid-sized businesses. We're responding to over 10 million plus threats on behalf of those same businesses and about 1.3 million events per second. Now you're saying those are really huge numbers. Why should I care? Well, let me give you some other numbers. If you are a business that only has like 25 staff, maybe has a couple cloud services like Office 365 or maybe some CRM like Salesforce, you're still generating about 400 events per second. So way too much for a human being to do on their own. And while we've been automating this all along, like I said, AI is just making it that much easier and faster and more reliable for us and thereby for you. So, how else can we help? Well, cybersecurity is about outcomes. It is not all about technology as much as I love tech. And honestly, if it was all about tech, we'd have this problem solved, right? The bad guys would never get in. However, cybersecurity is about what I call this three-legged stool of people, process, and technology. And with a three-legged stool, if one of those legs is shorter than one of the others or is missing altogether, what happens? Stool falls over. So will our cyber program. And these are just some of the examples of what happens when you don't have all three. And financial fraud is a great example of what happens when you don't have all three. Don't let that be you. Have those policies and procedures in place with your bank. So if someone gets an email and it says, "Hey, say your CFO just went on vacation or your CEO just went on vacation," someone in finance gets an email that says, "Hey, we need to purchase this piece of equipment or we need to pay this bill," and we just do that, this large bill, without really making sure that you know, that this is a real request, we could lose some money. And these financial fraud things happen over and over, and easier for the bad guy with AI. And those are an example of missing the correct people training and missing the wrong process of having those financial thresholds in place and not doing large financial transactions based just on some email from some random person who appears to be your CFO or your CEO. And what is that minimum acceptable technology to help you? Well, managed detection and response can help you. One of the biggest threats we're seeing from AI, like I said, are those phishing emails. So it's the same protections, managed detection and response. How would that help? Well, frequently when these bad guys get in your system, what they are doing is they're looking to see what you have. And let's face it, this is not like the old days, 25 plus years ago, right? Where our email was only our email. Our email is now access to all of our files shared with us, all of our files in SharePoint, all of our files in OneDrive, all of our contacts, all of everything, right? And frequently, what these bad guys will do, one of the things they will do is they will send email. Maybe they'll send email around your organization to see who else in your organization will click and give them a little more access, right? So they send a malicious link or a malicious attachment. And if you have MDR, managed detection and response, this is on your endpoints. This is your workstations and your servers. And one of your staff or one of your colleagues gets that email and they click on that malicious document. The EDR, based on understanding how applications work, knows that a Word document should not be launching processes that are running scripts, or PDF, same thing. So it'll stop it in its tracks. Not only will it stop it in its tracks, but if it causes any damage, it can allow you to roll back to a known good state. That's one example. Another example is a security information and event management system combined with a security operations center. Now, a security incident and event management system, that could do a couple things. So the bad guy gets control of your account. You're logged in, say you're logged in from where I'm at in Riverview, Florida. You're logged in from here. And then you also log in 15 minutes later from Lithuania. Nothing against Lithuania, just like to say it's a cool name, Lithuania, whatever. And your SIM can generate an alert that we've gotten into possible travel happening. You can't possibly be in Riverview, Florida, and then in Lithuania 15 minutes later, right? So we have an issue. It generates an alert. The SOC gets on that, and you guys take some action, right? Like logging the user out of all the sessions. That's just a couple of examples. There are many more examples if I could give you on how managed detection and response and SIM would help you here. Access management can help. DNS and web filter, security awareness training. People can't protect themselves against something they have no knowledge of, right? So you need to make them aware of the dangers and the benefits, right? Don't scare them. Share the good stuff. Show a much bigger list of the good stuff, just like I did, right? You should have your business continuity and disaster recovery. I would say that the technology problem that happened is a great example of the airlines having insufficient business continuity and disaster recovery plans in place, right? It should not have been such a huge ordeal. as long as it's lasted. And I believe some of the airlines didn't even start a company like Delta wasn't even allowing unaccompanied minors to fly at all until yesterday. And I haven't searched for an update. But if you have the appropriate business continuity disaster recovery plans, when something bad happens, you'll know what to do because we shouldn't be figuring it out in a crisis, right? And then, of course, cybersecurity insurance, which is your fallback or your fall safe to get you out of a bad situation and to help you financially recover as a small to mid-sized business. And I know I just shared a lot of info. Your head's probably exploding, but cybersecurity is a journey, not a destination. So the most important thing for you to do is start somewhere. And where do I think you should start? I think you should speak with Apex Technology about your security posture. Reach out to Rob for a consultation. Rob's email is here. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to make this super easy for you. I am going to type Rob's email in the chat. So hopefully you can see the chat. And you can grab Rob's email and you can reach out to him and he's more than happy to help you. And with that, boy, I did good, Rob. I did 45 minutes. So I am going to allow some time for Q&A before I hand it back to you, but feel free to come back on camera if you'd like. Does anybody
Yes, I'd
have
love
any
to go.
questions now that your heads are exploding? Come on, guys. Chris, Miguel, you've been very vocal. You don't have any questions? Just ask something silly. Humor me.
Yeah, here.
Thank you, Miguel. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Maybe you answered all the questions during your presentation.
I was very
Uh,
thorough.
exactly. Looks like maybe we'll be getting a question coming in here.
Are you going to be sending them a copy of the slides in the video?
Yes, we will have the video
Awesome.
uploaded here probably in the next day or so.
Awesome. And in the slides, there is a link to my LinkedIn. If you guys would like to connect with me on LinkedIn, you're more than welcome to do that as well.
All
All
right. Well,
right, Rob. The
if any
moment.
questions pop up, well, oh, here we go.
Yes. So Copilot is one of those. You still need to be careful, right? And you can purchase your own instance of things like Chat GPT or Gemini, but if you're a Microsoft shop, I would say Copilot is your best bet.
Yeah, we've started using Copilot in a lot of our meetings just for the transcription and all that, and it's been fantastic.
Yeah. Oh, great, Miguel. That'd be awesome. Yeah, feel free to connect with me so we can continue the conversation.
We'll see. It looks like maybe Chris is typing a question.
Okay.
When that comes through, we'll get to that. But oh, there it is.
Oh, awesome. Great. Yeah, good. Chris is
Okay,
also
thanks,
using
Chris.
Copilot. Thank you.
Okay, we'll go ahead and get the drawing started here. Give me 1 second to see who gets the $100 Visa gift card.
Do we need a drum roll?
And it is going, sure. It looks like it's going to be Jim Garrett. So, Jim, we'll get in touch and get that over to you as soon as we can. And again, if anybody doesn't have any, if there are no more questions, we really appreciate everybody joining us. If you're a current client of Apex and you have any questions about anything, certainly reach out to your account manager or to Jared, and they'd be happy to help. And we look forward to seeing everybody at our next webinar here in about 3 months. So thanks again,
Awesome.
everyone. Appreciate you joining.
Take care, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.